Hey guys, Naders here, and today I'm going to be talking about characters from a company that I feel like is typically overlooked for Multiverses characters. That company being Hanna-Barbera. WB owns Hanna-Barbera, and there are a lot of popular characters that originate from that company. Currently, we have Tom and Jerry, Shaggy, and Velma as our Hanna-Barbera characters. But where could the roster go from there? What Hanna-Barbera characters could we see get added into Multiverses next? Well, in this video, I will be talking about some neat Hanna-Barbera characters that we could see get into Multiverses soon. Firstly, how do we not have Scooby-Doo in this game yet? We got Shaggy before him, which is sort of understandable. But in my opinion, we should have totally gotten Scooby before Velma. That said, the devs did great implementing Velma into the game, and for people who don't know, Scooby is basically confirmed at this point. He has been in the Multiverses comic book covers, he has been in the Zamboni for the hockey collab, and Scooby Snacks also showed up in the new Multiverses trailer. So we will definitely be getting Scooby in the game, and if I had to guess, it's probably going to be very, very soon. But how would he work in the game? Well, there are a few accounts on Twitter campaigning to get Scooby into the game, but one of them, known as Tusky Wusky on Twitter, has created a fantastic moveset for Scooby. There are so many unique moves in it, but I think my favorites are some of the specials. For Scooby's neutral special, he would put on a disguise. The disguise would confuse the opponent, basically implying that the opponent is like, hey, where did the dude I was just fighting go? This totally seems like something Scooby would actually do, and I really love the idea. I also really love the side aerial special and the grounded down special. Having Scooby leap into the opponent's arms is hilarious to me, and I would love to see that. And Scooby Snacks would have to be included in his moveset somehow, so I'm super happy that Tusky decided to include it. The rest of the moveset is amazing, but I don't want to make half this video purely on Scooby-Doo. So I'd highly recommend pausing the video and reading what Tusky created. It is super unique, and I do hope that Scooby ends up playing like this if he were to be added into Multiverses. After Scooby, it is kind of hard to determine which Hanna-Barbera character deserves the slot next. Really, there are two very iconic Hanna-Barbera characters that should be added. First, I'll be talking about Fred Flintstone. Fred is certainly an icon. He's had his own show, movie, and even is a cereal mascot. Fred Flintstone could probably be recognized by, most people above the age of 10 or something like that. So it seems crazy to me to not include such an iconic character. As for moveset, I think it would be neat if he used a bowling ball as a projectile that ran across the stage, similar to Stripe's Saw Blade. As for weapons, he has his club that he could use, as well as a golf club and a tennis racket. There are 166 original episodes of the Flintstones, and I'd imagine that the devs could give Fred an amazing moveset. I really hope that he gets added into the future of the game. The other iconic character that I was thinking about would have to be Yogi Bear. Well, his original show only had 35 episodes. It received a ton of spin-offs. There have been 8 shows centered around Yogi after the original came out. So there is definitely a ton of moveset potential for Yogi. One of the things that I definitely do think should be included in his moveset is his love for picnic baskets, which I think is displayed very well in this moveset here created by the Power Plumber. Basically, Yogi's opponents would spawn in with picnic baskets. Yogi can then use his side special to yank the baskets away from the opponent. But you may be wondering, what do the picnic baskets do? Well, they can heal you, of course. When you use a picnic basket, you can pull out a food item that heals you or your teammate. I think that this is a great way of including Yogi's picnic baskets in his moveset. He could also have so many other moves pulled from his many shows as well. I think the devs could have a lot of fun implementing Yogi, and I'd love to see him added into the Multiverses. I think that Dick Dastardly and Muttley as a duo character would be awesome for Multiverses. I feel like Dick would be a great trapper character who is trying to constantly cheat and beat his opponents. I think that having a moveset focused around that would be super unique, but also could allow for a pretty wide range of different things that the devs could do. They could have have a lot of fun and be creative with what they decide to do with him. It would also be fun if Muttley did things for Dick, and if Muttley lands an attack, he would earn a medal. I remember watching Wacky Races on Boomerang when I was younger, so I definitely would love to see a Wacky Races rep get in. For me, Dick and Muttley would totally be the pick that I would go with. When thinking of giant monkeys that could get into the game, I'm sure that most people would think about King Kong and maybe George from Rampage. But there is a third character that comes to my mind as well, that character being Grape Ape. I think that Grape Ape is a great character, and at the very least should get into Multiverses as a costume. I think that we can all agree that King Kong has pretty good chances of making it into the game in the far future. In the DC Hanna-Barbera comic crossover, Grape Ape is actually an actor who plays King Kong in the DC universe. So I think that if Kong gets in, I think that there should totally be a costume that looks like Grape Ape. I think that that would be awesome. But what if Grape Ape didn't get in as a costume, but rather a full-on character? How would that work? Well, there are 32 Grape Ape episodes that have been made, and after watching a few episodes, there are definitely some things from them that can be pulled and made into a moveset. For instance, he could use Beagle Beagle as a yo-yo and fling him downward at his opponents, or he could have a stomp move. He also is able to fly a short distance. Warner Brothers has a good amount of characters that fill the giant character type role, but I personally would love to see Grape Ape get into the game. I have seen some people want a Jetsons character for Multiverses. I think either George or Rosie are the two names that I see the most. I personally think that Elroy could be a lot of fun as well. I've always liked his character. The fun thing about a Jetsons character is all the futuristic gadgets that they could have. I think that it would be insanely cool to have a Jetsons character get in. I would give more moveset ideas, but I think that the amount of gadgets they could use is insane. So I'd imagine that that's primarily what their moveset would be focused around. Just to give one example, if Elroy did become the Jetsons rep, this machine could be used for his recovery. It's just little things like this that could make the Jetsons character really interesting in my opinion. I'd imagine that Elroy could also use his dog Astro for help. Either way, whether it's Elroy or not, I think that a Jetsons character should get into this game. I have made a whole video on a moveset that Bingo from the Banana Splits could have. I actually really like that moveset, so consider watching it if you have the time. My idea for a Banana Splits rep was to take some of their most recent appearances into account. Recently, the Banana Splits have been used very differently than they originally were. They started out as a kids show, but DC took a turn and had them join the Suicide Squad. Then they got their own horror movie, and most recently they were in Jellystone. They were literally criminals in that show. So I think that it would be fun if a Banana Splits rep would take that aspect of the character into account. Personally, Bingo is my favorite out of the Splits, so I'd like to see him the most. Plus, he also could use that axe that he has been seen with on the cover of the horror movie, so he could actually have a slight lead on the other Splits for moveset potential. I think a Splits character could be a lot of fun, and I hope that we do happen to get one in the game's future. I've always thought that Inspector Gadget would be an awesome character to see get into Multiverses, but he's not owned by Warner. But Warner does happen to own a character that could play extremely similar to how Gadget would. That character being Secret Squirrel. I mentioned earlier how the Jetsons could use a lot of gadgets to fight with, but there are a few differences between Secret Squirrel's gadgets and the Jetsons' gadgets. Firstly, the Jetsons are all futuristic. The whole show takes place in the future. Secret Squirrel's gadgets kind of aren't that futuristic. Secondly, Secret Squirrels are primarily focused around combat. The Jetsons' gadgets would probably be helpful to them, but they weren't really made for fighting. Meanwhile, Secret Squirrel has a cannon hat and a machine gun cane. This squirrel could go crazy in Multiverses, and I think that it would be super cool if we got to see him in the game's future. I'm also going to throw Space Ghost out there as well. A non-DC superhero could be really neat in the game, and they could even lean into a Space Ghost coast-to-coast Adult Swim aspect. I think that he could be really neat. And with that, I think we will wrap it up here. This video was a lot of fun to make, and I hope maybe it made some of you want some of these characters to show up in the game. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing, as it would encourage me to make future MultiVersus content. Next week, I plan on making another MultiVersus related video, so if that sounds interesting, stay tuned. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next week.